Lord Voldemort wasn't trying to destroy the wizarding world, but actually trying to save it. I know you're thinking that he killed and manipulated people, but behind that darkness, there was a twisted plan at work. And this story doesn't begin with Harry Potter. It begins with a boy named Tom. Before he was the most feared name in the magical world, he was just Tom, an orphan boy who could talk to snakes and make objects fly without a wand. He was different. Other children avoided him, and the adults feared him. But Tom wasn't afraid. He was curious about his powers. When Dumbledore first visited young Tom in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince to tell him he was a wizard, the boy didn't smile or get excited. He simply asked, "Can other people do what I can do?" And when he found out they could, his next question was the one that would define his life. Then why don't they use it to change the world? At Hogwarts, Tom was brilliant. His teachers adored him, and students admired him. But he noticed things others ignored. He noticed how the purebloods looked down on Muggle-borns. He noticed how the Ministry twisted the truth and punished those who asked too many questions. He started to think magic was being wasted, hidden, and tamed. He was sick of watching baseless rules overshadow magic. They called him arrogant, but what if he was just more concerned about the magical world than them? In a world that favored the pure, the rich, and the legacy, he dared to ask the forbidden question: why must magic bow? He wasn't thirsty for power. His aim was to expose the hypocrisy and weakness he saw in the systems that were running the... So, maybe Voldemort wasn't trying to kill everyone. Maybe he was just trying to protect the magical world dark authorities. And Dumbledore's was darker than most. Before he became headmaster, Albus Dumbledore believed that wizards should rule over muggles for the greater good. And he shared that belief with Gellert Grindelwald, a man who would later become one of the darkest wizards in history. They dreamed of power together until tragedy struck. Dumbledore's sister, Ariana, died during one of their arguments. No one really knows who cast the spell that killed her. And Dumbledore never spoke of it again and covered it up. After that, he changed his public image. He became humble, quiet, and kind, but he still remained in the game and controlled things behind the scenes.
When Tom Riddle started asking questions, Dumbledore didn't guide him on how to handle his power. He just watched and waited. He said he saw something dark in Tom. But what if that darkness about exposing the hypocrisy and weakness he saw in the very systems that held the wizarding world together was just a reflection of his own past? He told the world that Voldemort was dangerous, and surely he was, but Dumbledore made sure he stayed in control of the story. Every move Voldemort made, Dumbledore spun into a tale of darkness and fear, always positioning himself as the only one capable of stopping him. By controlling that narrative, he kept the wizarding world's faith in him intact. Maybe Voldemort was never the only one with secrets. The wizarding world loves tradition, legacy, and old magic, rules written hundreds of years ago and never questioned. But behind the polished wood of the Ministry of Magic and the dusty halls of Hogwarts, there were cracks in the foundation that Voldemort saw long before anyone else dared to look. The Ministry was full of cowards who didn't know how to protect the magical society. People like Cornelius Fudge and Pius Thickness were worried more about what muggles might think and hiding their identity. Hogwarts was no better. We saw that favoritism, abuse, and secrets were normal there. Students from certain families like Draco Malfoy seemed to get away with far more due to their family's influence and status. Professor Umbridge used cruel and excessive punishment methods, such as forcing Harry to carve "I must not tell lies" into his own hand, and the school hid the truth about Tom Riddle's past and the Chamber's origins. preventing students from knowing the true danger lurking within the school. Voldemort saw these flaws in the system long ago while he was at Hogwarts. He wasn't just obsessed with blood purity because of hate. He saw it as a way to preserve something that was disappearing. To him, magic was sacred. It was meant to be respected, strengthened, and passed down. But what he saw instead was corruption, fear, and a world that was slowly giving away its power in the name of peace. He thought the only way to fix it was to stand against it, and he did. The Statute of Secrecy, which kept wizards hidden from the Muggle world, was once a protection, but to Voldemort, it had become a cage. Why should wizards hide? Why should they pretend they were less than what they were? He wanted a world where magic could be free. But the Ministry feared change more than death. When people hear the word Horcrux, they immediately think of evil. And yes, Voldemort tore his soul into 7 fragments, committing murders to anchor each piece. But did he do it just because he feared death? Or was there something else? To most people, Horcruxes were a path to immortality. But for Voldemort, they may have been a strategy, a way to outlast a system he believed was broken. He didn't trust anyone else to finish what he started, so he chose to stay alive by any means necessary. And look at what he chose for his Horcruxes. They weren't random objects, but sacred artifacts tied to the very founders of Hogwarts. They were Salazar Slytherin's locket, Helga Hufflepuff's cup, and Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem. He was choosing symbols of legacy and power. They were pieces of magical history, and Voldemort wanted to preserve them from being forgotten or destroyed. It's easy to say Horcruxes made him a monster, but they also made him the only one who saw how fragile the wizarding world had become. And maybe Voldemort wasn't trying to conquer death. He was trying to outlive the lie everyone else was living in. Now comes the prophecy. Neither can live while the other survives. But the prophecy only mattered because Voldemort believed it. He heard it and acted on it, and just like that, it became real. We know that Snape overheard the prophecy while spying on Dumbledore's meeting with Sybil Trelawney at the Hog's Head Inn. He ran straight to Voldemort with the information. But the real question is, why was the prophecy said in a public place? Dumbledore was the mastermind behind the leak of the prophecy. He could have informed Sybil about it privately, but he didn't because he wanted it to reach Voldemort. See, Voldemort didn't fear the prophecy, he feared losing. He had built his power, his army, his immortality, and one vague line from a crystal ball nearly shattered it all. Prophecy was a clear trap. A brilliant way to trap Voldemort into marking Harry as his equal, creating the only person who could destroy him. Voldemort didn't choose Harry out of hatred, but he saw a reflection of himself. He saw him as a threat to his immortality, but in trying to eliminate that threat, he played right into Dumbledore's hands. Because once Voldemort tried to control fate, it controlled him back. The war, the Horcruxes, the final battle, all of it spun out from that one moment. A trap disguised as truth, and that's his tragedy. Voldemort didn't lose because he was evil. He lost because he trusted a lie. Maybe in another world, Harry and Voldemort might have fought the same enemy, but in this one, they were on opposite sides of the lie. After Voldemort fell, the wizarding world cheered. The Ministry was restored and Hogwarts reopened. But beneath the celebration, nothing really changed. The same families held power. The same schools taught the same spells. The same fears lingered, just quieter now. They built a statue of Harry, but they never asked why a child had to fight their war in the first place. Voldemort was gone, but the corruption in the magical world was still there. Magic was still hidden from the real world. The fear was still shaping the Ministry's laws, and nobody had the guts to challenge them. The magical world was still full of puppets, and maybe Voldemort was wrong about how he fought, but not about why he fought. He saw a world asleep at the wheel and wanted to wake it up. He became the villain, but sometimes the villain is just the only one willing to do what the hero can't, and maybe he failed. But maybe he was the only one who tried. Voldemort was feared, hated, and ultimately destroyed. But maybe he wasn't fighting against magic. Maybe he was fighting for it. He broke the rules, yes. But what if the rules were broken to begin with? Maybe all this chaos was just his efforts to save the wizarding world.